Hello, 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 and welcome to the Anxiety Pill podcast. Today's episode is a very special episode with my dear friend Tars joining us today to talk about cosmic horror. Please say hello, Tars.
Hello, everybody.
And with me today, we also have Man with Fat, who has been absolutely busy and killing it on the hosting side.
What is up, Anxiety Pillars? Very happy to be here.
So we have a bunch of different questions about cosmic horror, which I'm going to drill my friend about, so that way we can get a good grasp on what cosmic horror means, the origin, what is the future of it, where do we go with the unknown. But Man with Fat, what type of questions you got for us today?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I am the stand-in lay man with fat here today. I was always an A English, D science kid, so very excited to get kind of a more in-depth view of the genre and, a deeper analysis of kind of the science and the origins behind everything. So I've, got a few things to get into here. Do you want me to go ahead and ask my first one?
So if you've got the science one, then you will end up in our third category. So first,
Okay.
as you are our resident expert, what does cosmic horror mean? What separates it from other horror?
So, with typical horror, what you lead into is the kind of buildup of anxiety. You often have a lot of gore, or you have a lot of one thing versus the other that fills you with fear or fills you with, kind of this existential dread. And cosmic horror, while it fits into that category, it's this unknowing fear of just the unexplainable or the incomprehensible. It's things that you cannot explain, will never be explained, and the biggest fear factor of it is that something horrible happens and you never understand where it came from or why it happened.
What cosmic horror will look like as the unknown changes would presumably also change within the genre as we know more and more about humanity.
I think the fun part of cosmic horror is that while you can touch on the horrors of humanity in a very cosmic horror way, the things that you're dealing with are things that we as human beings will never be able to understand. Things like gods, or things like unknown entities, and just horrors that we can't even begin to understand. I think when it comes to where we're getting with it, I think a great example of that is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I don't know if either of you know that short story.
I believe I've read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's where a computer that was designed by human beings takes the last five human beings and just torments them completely until each of them just end up killing themselves, and then he's stuck with one last one that he changes the body so much that this creature has no limbs and then it has no mouth. That's where the title comes from. So that's more of where I see cosmic horror as a genre going as we battle more with technology and the horrors and the unknown of technology and AI.
I do think that, I think AI definitely does kind of hit on a lot of those same anxieties of cosmic horror as we're kind of at the forefront of it here, looking into the future. And I guess the biggest thing with cosmic horror for me is, like you were saying with the exploring the gods and, really getting into what man or humanity in general struggles to understand. I think that a lot of it is like the indifference of it. And so where, a lot of the older cosmic horror is these indifferent entities that kind of play a hand in everything, yet don't have that much of a vested interest in man. I feel like AI kind of operates in a similar way, where it's a computer that's efficiency forward, so it's not necessarily concerned with man outside of how it influences what it's been programmed to do.
Oh yeah, and man, this is really sciencey, so I apologize if this kind of breaks your brain. The way that quantum computing works, so if you know anything about computers, it's zeros and ones. Everything's in binary. It can only either be 0 or only ever be 1. with quantum computing, the thing that AI now does is that you see the result without seeing the process. You don't see the zeros and ones to get there because you physically can't, because quantum computing is both 0 and 1 at the same time. So, and because of this, this is something that human beings, you cannot trace how it got that result. You can only see the end result.
That did break my brain a little bit, but that's really really spooky. In all honesty, that is terrifying, and I can definitely see.
I mean, it's within our control, but as we get to the more science section of this, I can go deeper into what exactly they're doing with it, because it gets really horrific. But yeah, AI is kind of, I think, the future of what we perceive as cosmic horror, unfortunately. But there will always be this charm and this love for just monsters and tentacles and yeah. Oh my god. And there it is.
Man, would you like to take the second question on the genre foundations category?
Certainly. I mean, so as far as the foundations of the genre, I mean, of course, there is Lovecraft, but who else would you say really kind of laid the groundwork for what would become the genre of cosmic horror, Tars?
Lovecraft has his own subgenre for it, but another example actually is Franz Kafka. So the subgenres of cosmic horror is that you have Lovecraftian, which that's like eldritch gods and tentacle monsters and that sort of a thing. Then you have the body horror, which that's Kafka. It's transformation, just kind of unwilling transformation into something that you can't explain. A good example of this is his story Metamorphosis, where one morning he woke up as a giant bug. And there's no reason as to why it happened, and everybody seems pretty indifferent to this fact that he's just this horrific bug, and he eventually starves to death. There's just really no explanation to it. And then the third genre is, like, subgenre is science fiction kind of horror, which that's your, like, a lot of films touch on that. Into the Void and stuff like that. Those are your sci-fi ones. But then you have something, my favorite subgenre, which is nonlinear. And it's also known as weird horror. And that's your King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers. That's your House of Leaves by Daniel Z. Danielski. And that's your, like, it's things that an outside force puts this person in such a place of internal conflict that you're watching them fall into madness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like hitting on that mimetic or the kind of the horror of human nature in that sense.
Yeah. And those are the ones where you'll typically see things like cults or religion in the weird sort of cosmic horror.
Very interesting. Thank you, Tars.
So we have a lot of different subgenres. But what are some specific criteria that it has to meet for it to be cosmic horror and not just like someone turning into a werewolf or like something that on surface level, oh yeah, might fit, but like what are the specific criteria?
The biggest one is the unexplainable. Like, you have an entity or a problem that typically it's human beings are facing, and it's so beyond them, so above them, that they can't even explain the origin of it or what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. That's the big thing. It's just the unexplainable. I think my personal opinion is that another criteria is this existential dread, this realization that as human beings, we are not able to overcome this, no matter how hard we try and no matter how much we fight. It's so incomprehensible that you can't. Like, with Cthulhu, it's this idea that even perceiving him can drive you insane because we're humans, we're small. So I think that's the criteria. Really, you can play around in that completely, but it's just this unexplainable, huge thing that as human beings we can't even comprehend.
You are so smart when you talk, dude.
Thank you.
And so, adding on to Cthulhu, so they stare into something incomprehensible and go mad. For the longest time, I was like, wouldn't affect me. I stare at things and don't understand them all the time. I just go, none of my business, continue on.
Oh,
But
Cthulhu's greatest enemy would be someone who's autistic, not gonna lie. Like, that would do it. It would piss him off.
it's like, yeah, you got a face. Okay, I guess. But like, what it's supposed to be getting at, so that we don't have the me staring at incomprehensible horrors. I don't get it. Is like, take an ant. I did steal this from Tumblr. I don't remember who the OP was, but they explained it in such a way that I finally got it. So take an ant, bring them up to our level. Imagine that they suddenly understand how circuit boards work, how computers work, and all these complicated human-made things. And then you snap, and then they're back in the ant colony, and they go, I knew what this was, now I can't fucking explain it.
Yeah,
Like, I understood for a brief second.
Or like, take a little Victorian boy and take him to a rave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drugs wouldn't affect him, but the
with,
lights
like,
and music
Shrek
would.
coming out of the screen and blowing fire out of his mouth. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm from this century and I still don't fucking understand that. So, it's... Yeah, it would be like that. That really is it.
Yeah, so now that we've got the genre foundations, everyone says that it starts with H.P. Lovecraft. You and I had briefly said that, kind of, but also no.
Kind of. The first ever, like, technically recorded one was a book called The Willows by Algernon Blackwood in 1907, which Lovecraft himself loved so much. He said that it was the best book ever written in the English language. And he has this quite bit of praise for it, and this one I have not read. I do know that it follows a group of people that end up in this mysterious forest where the willow trees seem to be alive and draw them further and further in. But this isn't technically the first written cosmic horror. Before then it was known as weird horror. So, and the oldest one that I can think of is Edward Allan Poe's MS Found in a Bottle, where this ship is drawn into this weird swirling vortex and they can't really explain where they are because they end up in this other dimension and deal with things that they've never experienced before.
So, and I remember reading an essay about H.P. Lovecraft and weird horror, and Algernon Blackwood, Edgar Allan Poe, he was like, these guys are my inspirations. I love them so much.
Oh yeah, Edgar Allan Poe, he was really good at making you suddenly afraid of birds.
Yep.
He had such a fear of birds. And then we have Lovecraft that was afraid of black people.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next point.
Yes.
So we cannot talk about Lovecraft without talking about the cat named Size elephant in the room. He's a fucking racist. What does that mean for the genre when everyone turns to him?
Oh, it inspired the entire genre. So, if you know the history of Lovecraft, his mother was terrible. She would constantly put him down, call him ugly every single day of his life, and in her calling him ugly would compare him to black people, indigenous people. And she said, you look like these people, therefore you're ugly. And it instilled this, like, absolute hatred within him because it's in the water how he felt about his mother, but he had this respect for her as well as knowing that she was awful. And in that, a lot of the cosmic horrors that you see are actually greatly inspired by indigenous folklore. So you have things like shapeshifters and different kind of entities that were like they are considered very sacred in indigenous practices. You have monsters and this fear of, like, he just fully cites things about black people that's just absolutely terrible. Then there's this cat
Yeah.
that everybody knows what his cat was named. So he was a terrible person, and he had such hatred and fear that he put that into his work. And that is the very unfortunate origin of it, because you have these stories that birth this whole genre, and if you really, really dig deep into it, you can't fully remove that.
Yeah, and like I remember reading some of the works and thinking, oh, people are probably exaggerating how blatant it is. Like it's probably really racist, but like in a hey, let's take a second and look. No, it would be 50 million lines per sentence because this man loves to run on sentence, and then all of a sudden, bam, outwardly racist. Like, dude, what? Why are we taking a sidetrack for you to mention how much you hate this type of person?
Yeah.
Like it's awful. And I had a theory that because he had a fear and hatred of others not like him, that very much ties into this whole fear of the unknown. And man, with that, you had mentioned that you had a different take, which I would really love to hear.
I mean, my kind of opinion of it, I've read quite a few of Lovecraft's works, and kind of appreciate them for what they are, despite the kind of person he was. But I mean, you're looking, at the time that he was creating these works, and unfortunately, in that period of American history, it wasn't necessarily uncommon for somebody to hold the types of beliefs that he did. So I mean, whenever I look at like Lovecraft, I try to not necessarily, hyperfixate on kind of what made him typical of the era, as in, the hateful beliefs and then the prejudice. But I try and kind of look for the things that made him different, and what he did outside of that to kind of shift the genre. And of course, his wordy prose and everything. But I mean, he really did have a knack for building atmosphere and creating kind of these large spanning mythoses that really, kind of preyed on human fears. I do definitely think that the upbringing, had a part in why he wrote what he did, kind of the ways he did. But I also think that, there was something specific that he was able to accomplish outside of, it being fully influenced by his racism. I do think that, there was genuine, kind of literary evolution that happened there within his work.
Oh yeah, and you are right on that front, because we get past the whole like this is cosmic horror to who Lovecraft was, and then you get into the classics category that his work is classics because they show us, first of all, how things were written during the time, how society was at that time, and it also gives us a good look into just the way things were and how people viewed each other. And that's why classics like that is so important, because you have other works as well, just not even just in the cosmic horror, but like Frankenstein, you have Wuthering Heights. Those two books have incredibly racist undertones.
Oh yeah.
But it gives you this insight into how society was at the time. And so I do actually fully agree with that you need to appreciate him as an author and who he was fathering this genre and moving forward with a highly influential genre, and into the insight of just the time period that he was in and the situation that he was in. Because when we look today at people that were raised in very abusive households, it can translate over that there's just this part of it that is very reflective of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I of course don't say that to, say that we shouldn't look into, kind of the ways that his opinions or, prejudices affected his work. I think that's also, extremely important. But it's also, I think good to separate it a little bit and look at it, from a literary standpoint to what kind of happened with the genre. I think that you can do both things at the same time, and I think that being able to separate that kind of lends a better way to really get an insight as to how the genre was able to grow.
Oh yeah, and really, you cannot talk about cosmic horror without talking about Lovecraft. Like it's
Hmm.
there will be no other Lovecraft.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as problematic as he was, he did a lot for the genre. Um, so, man with that, I think you've read more works than I did. Would you want to like ask a few questions or like talk about what specific ones mean for the genre?
I mean, I guess we could kind of get into him a little bit. I've read a few of his short stories, and I've read "At the Mountain of Madness" and all of that. I would say probably my personal favorite is "The Shadow over Innsmouth."
That's amazing.
Specifically, a few adaptations of it that I've really, really enjoyed. So, I mean, I guess kind of handing the mic to Tars and kind of seeing what of those works um, do you think really kind of propelled the genre and or sort of cemented Lovecraft from this pulp writer in weird magazines to a literary classic author.
I mean, I think his most influential work was Cthulhu. Like that
Hmm.
that was his most influential one. But actually, personally, my favorite is The Color Out of Space. Um, I think because it just seemed to combine all of the different parts that put together what cosmic horror is. And um, are either of you guys a Stephen King fan?
Um, I know of a lot of his stories. I've watched a few of the movies, but I mostly just like
Okay.
I watch like YouTube analysis of them.
Yeah, like he's considered possibly the most influential horror writer of our time, and most of his stuff is based off of cosmic horror concepts. You have um,
Pennywise.
Pennywise, definitely, which is a horror, just an incomprehensible horror. And then if you're like me, who's really into, I'm going way off trail, but if you're really into Stephen King, there's this beautiful thing that is the Stephen King multiverse, and it is a thing. Star Wars is canon in it. I'm not even joking. So
What?
is Harry Potter. So is Harry Potter.
What are you talking about?
So I really have to recommend reading the Dark Tower series. Because if you are a Stephen King fan and you've read things like The Shining, It, and The Standing, those are the main three that I recommend reading before you read the Dark Tower series. You start to make connections that the Crimson King is most likely who Pennywise is. They also have a TV series called Castle Rock, who has a character that is played by Bill Skarsgård that is very reminiscent of who Pennywise is. And this takes place in Castle Rock. So you start connecting his things, and it's very much similar to Lovecraft horror kind of ideas, but then it comes together in this very complex multiverse that stretches across different worlds and timelines, and there's no real explanation to it. It's just some guy with a gun that's mad that this man in black fucked his girlfriend, and now he's chasing him across the desert.
That is wild, and I'm also like realizing like this is what happens when you make men grow up in small towns in like the New England area.
Right, 'cause
They make cosmic horror universes.
Stephen King perfectly emulated Lovecraft down to the racism. And it's all
Yeah, I mean, I do remember hearing a quote from Stephen King that he is a massive Lovecraft fan.
oh, he
Let's see if I can get it
absolutely
pulled up
is.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said Lovecraft opened the way for me as he had done for others before me.
Oh yeah. And
And
I
overlies.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I personally love Stephen King. My favorite story by him is The Jaunt. It's this short little story about teleportation and this kid that doesn't listen to his parents and ends up going mad because he doesn't take the anesthesia when he goes through teleportation. And it's like that is very cosmic horror, and it's this little short story that was released in a Playboy magazine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
These men are wild.
These men are insane. Also, his obsession with children.
Yeah,
None
that
of
is,
it.
that is an interesting one.
Yeah, Stephen King is unfortunately a great horror writer, Okay, retracting that a little bit, he's a great method writer. So most of his books follow a certain formula that every single one is the same, that you have this town, you have this character that's a writer, and you have a kid with superpowers, and then this cosmic entity that you're dealing with. That is every Stephen King novel that was ever written. But sometimes he writes these books that are actually so unique and so good that I'm like, I wish that you would focus on these instead of publishing 50 books a year. Yeah.
Hmm.
But that's
Yeah, kind of the more niche works, the ones that get overlooked. But I mean, that's kind of the double-edged sword with writing something really strange and getting to the nitty-gritty of, the kind of cosmic horror of it all is that it becomes, a tad less accessible. And I feel like that's kind of been a constant through the genres. A lot of people on the outside looking in kind of see those cosmic themes as something that, I'm not sure I really want to dive into that, or I don't get it. But I mean, I think that, once you really kind of take the dive into it, it is just exposing kind of those baseline human fears of what it is to not be in control and to be under the gaze of something that is either indifferent or just like omnipotent over you. And I think that's pretty neat.
It's definitely it's an exploration of the human nature that we believe that we are incorrigible, that anything that comes, like when you look at NASA and you look at everything, we believe that we can conquer the universe, and ultimately what these writers are trying to say is that that belief will be our undoing. And personally in
Hmm.
my writing is that I do touch on that. I touch on what science is trying to do and how we're going to bite off more than we can chew. Like there's this lovely line that Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park says that says, "We discovered what we could do that we never stopped to think should we do it." And it's chaos theory is actually very legit in this as well. Because with cosmic horror, you have another example. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Altamoros. I've talked to you a little bit about this. Essentially, it's human beings conquered Mars. We started building a population on Mars. And it follows more like a scientific journal of how human beings started to naturally evolve to the environment to survive on Mars. And then suddenly, you have this alien species that, for no other reason than it could, decided to fuck with human evolution. And it created the most horrific monsters and creatures out of it. There's one that just sticks in my brain where it turned, when these human beings finally turned around and tried to fight them, in a snap of their fingers, it turned them into flesh blocks on their floor. That other human beings that were almost like horses evolved into something that was almost like horses. They were the filter beneath their feet for waste and stuff like that, and they just were eternally like that. And it's this concept that human beings, we believe that we can overcome everything. And then you have this god-like entity that you don't know where it comes from, you can barely comprehend it, and it, in a moment, it can just destroy you, and there's no hope of prevailing in that situation.
Yeah, just like pure hopelessness. And that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I think now because you've brought up Stephen King being basically a successor to Lovecraft, that makes me think that like everybody, I think since he started writing, we are still all about Stephen King, like the new Welcome to Derry series, even the Black Phone series, because that's written by his son, who is very similar in writing.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're having like at least movie wise, there's a tiny bit of like a gothic renaissance, but cosmic horror is still absolutely
Oh, yeah.
what's going on. Like Lovecraft started something and it just never stopped, much like his words. Which, by the way, do we know if there's a reason why he's so fucking wordy and he can't just say something?
I don't know. He there's some authors like that that have fathered great genres, like J.R.R. Tolkien's like that too, just incredibly wordy, and there's really no explanation for it. They just care so much about the atmosphere that they're trying to build that they go off on tangents.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need
Yeah, I
to
think
know.
I think that's the big thing is it's the atmosphere is the central focus of kind of the whole first 3/4 of the story.
Yeah, which it is important, but for a genre like cosmic horror, I don't know how he did that and still got away with the unexplainable concept because
He
a lot
explained
of
everything.
he explained everything. But then you get to the entity, and it's either the thing is so large you can't see the full thing, so you're only being given the description of different parts of it, or it's just so unexplainable that you just have this character stumbling over anything trying to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Though there is, which, like, that's the art of it, because it is impossible to capture his work in film. People have tried, and it's just, you can't. You cannot physically capture that sort of genre and that sort of unexplainable into a visual format. But the only one that I think that I've mentioned this earlier to you is the film The Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Captures that Lovecraftian Eldritch vibe perfectly, and it's my favorite cosmic horror film. It's
Yeah, I remember seeing it back when it first came out. And it is a great fucking, excuse my French, but great movie, great movie. I will challenge though the Lovecraft not adapting well to any visual format. I do think that film is really difficult, but there's a manga artist named Go Tanabe who has adapted a lot of Lovecraft's works, and he does an incredible job, kind of being able to translate not only just like the unknown horrors, but also just like the human responses to them. Like he does really great facial work, and just emotive storytelling. So I mean, if you, I would give those a look because he's adapted a lot of Lovecraft stuff. His Shadow over Innsmouth's really good. His At the Mountain of Madness is fantastic. I know he's got a few others as well, but I do really appreciate that guy's work, and I do think that it's something that if you are going to try and translate it to a visual media, you have to really understand what it is that kind of makes the terror work. You can't give somebody a full kind of view or glimpse or understanding. You have to give them the pieces of the terror to kind of I guess the way I'm trying to explain it is, cosmic horror, the reason I feel like I appreciate it is because it engages your creativity, and stories that kind of engage the creativity of the reader I find really interesting. So I think Tanabe does a good job of kind of translating that.
I think I'm going to put up like what I'm finding on like the search
Yeah, because these are
results.
incredible drawings.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah,
these are
he's
wonderful.
amazing.
It reminds me a lot of Junji Ito, which that was another one that I was going to bring up. That there are some that is
Hmm.
built for visual format, and Junji Ito specifically the spiral. That that is one of the most incredibly done mangas in the cosmic horror genre, and it actually got a an anime adaptation that captured it perfectly. It was horrific. Like, they did a bunch of Junji Ito's work, and they followed the manga style and this whole unexplainable thing that he had going, and it very well done.
Oh
So
yeah, I mean I adore Junji Ito. I've got too many of that guy's books sitting on my shelf. I think one of them is Billions Together Alone, or Billions Alone Together, and the Amigara Fault. Both of those are kind of wrestling for like two of my favorite short stories of all time.
they're
So I mean, that
amazing.
guy is incredibly talented.
Oh, he really is. There's also this album, this music album. If I find it later, you can put it up. I can't remember the name of it. I do believe it's called The Cosmic Garden. That it's music that's based off of his work.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's rad.
So it's not haunting, but it just has these very unique sounds to it. It's a wonderful album. I quite like it. But yeah.
So we are moving
All
on
right.
from the
Oh, I don't.
history of cosmic horror to space in specific slash the future of cosmic horror. Man, with that, take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we've talked about King, we've talked about racist dead guys, but looking back or looking towards the future, there, we do know a lot more now than we did back whenever H.P. Lovecraft was kind of designing the mythos. So I mean, what do you think that means for kind of the future of the genre? And I mean, will the horrors of the unknown kind of shift? And I know we touched on a little bit with AI, but other things as well as like space travel or depletion of resources on their,
Oh,
on our own planet. Do you think that the genre will kind of find those different axes to prey on those same human fears?
oh yeah. One very with everything that's kind of going on in the world, that one form of cosmic horror that we're seeing a lot of kind of come up is religious and cults. It's becoming very, very popular because most of the three main Abrahamic religions talk about when the rivers start to dry up and the ice starts to melt, that these old entities that were kept, like in the Quran, it talks about the river, and in the river that there are three angels that were kept underneath it, and when this dries up that they'll come and they'll start to reap plagues across the earth. And even in the Bible it starts talking about these things, so you're starting to see that a lot. But there is a new genre that's starting to come up in cosmic horror spaces, and that is liminal spaces. So you have things like the back rooms, and you have not so much entities that you're dealing with, but these alternate universes, because we've had enough of space travel. Let's go to alternate dimensions that we can't explain. And there's actually a new movie coming out about the liminal spaces by A24 that I'm very excited about.
Oh yeah, the background. I think that was mentioned on the last episode too.
Yeah, that's
More continuity.
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely weird or cosmic horror. And we also have new types of genre, like new types of platforms for it. So it's not just visual and through writing, that we have video games. And there's that, for example, that we have one of my favorites is No, I'm Not Human. And it got a lot of popularity, where you play this guy that suddenly the sun became so hot that people cannot be outside during the day. And there's these things that look like people that are wandering around called strangers that you have to be careful not to let it into your house. You have to check for things like, is the teeth yellowing? Is your hands, like, are your fingernails dirty? Are your eyes kind of yellowish? And you play this character that constantly checks himself to make sure that he isn't a stranger, because he doesn't know. And that's definitely, we have that as well. So I think with kind of what we know in the new type of platforms that we are able to express the genre on, that we're going to see a lot more of that, a lot more of it in video games, in films, and even with audiobooks. And yeah, like, I think that really is the future. And liminal spaces, I'm loving it. Like SCP, liminal spaces, analog cosmic horror, keep it coming. It's incredible.
Yeah, with jumping on to what you said with the platforms, like, even so, the writing that us at Anxiety Pilled are used to versus actual books, being online and on Reddit, it allows for a lot of different formatting. It can be like with the r/no sleep. Hey guys, I'm here on Reddit. This is what the fuck's going on. And so, like, for example, while in novels, Stephen King might be like the top dog, as far as like cosmic horror goes, like on the internet, the biggest name I can think of is friend of the channel, Sarcasmomicon, as he did a lot of cosmic horror. And again, if you haven't checked him out, you really should.
Oh yeah, and I mean Sarcasmomicon, he does a lot to kind of imbue the stories with a lot of the, mechanical and kind of scientific mechanisms that lend itself to the horror. So I mean, I think that, kind of looking at it, off of the question, like as far as whether or not the genre is going to see like a major shakeup. I mean, of course, the stories and what connects with people is always going to change, but at the end of the day, as we learn more, it almost becomes a sense of, you learn more about what you don't know. And I think that there's always going to be room kind of in horror for weirdness and uncertainty to really play on kind of people's emotions and fears, especially with, the back rooms. And it was really interesting what you said, with the Abrahamic religions kind of, as we're going into the future, it's almost kind of bringing it back to the past. And I mean, we're seeing it with I think I've seen statistics where Gen Z is the first generation and quite a few to have, more people going to church and practicing, religion than say the millennials were. So we are kind of seeing this cyclical, sort of bringing back these baseline kind of religious fears and, the other of ending up in these alternate, universes and timelines and things like that. And I think that, as the genre expands, it's not necessarily, what are we going to get rid of, but I think it's always, in addition to. So I think it'll always kind of be in a healthy place in that respect.
Oh yeah, because especially right now with like the way that the world is, we live in such a time of uncertainty. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, and I remember a few years ago that not even a few years ago, it's still going, that there was just this sudden interest in what do angels look like in biblical accuracy. Like it's not these cherubs with wings and a bow. It's these like three heads. One of them's a goat, and then the other one's a lion, and then one of them's an eagle, kind of a thing. And then you have the rings that are on fire, and I always
covered in eyes.
Yeah.
Those freaky.
Yeah, like what do they look like in biblical accuracy? And I think it really has to do with the time that we're in and how much uncertainty that we're in. And as we go forward, you're going to see a lot more of that. Unfortunately, this person got exposed for using AI to do it. But one example of that was that there was this series on TikTok called Angel Engine that combined cosmic horror and analog horror. And I enjoyed it until I found out that it was mostly AI built. But it's things like that. And then also as human beings, we are naturally curious, and we're going to start playing around more with science. So I guess going back to something that I saved for later, earlier on, when I was talking about AI and the horrifics of it, in Australia, this is real, they took human brain cells and put them on a computer. And these human brain cells are put through simulations to do math problems. And if they do one correctly, they are rewarded, and if they do it incorrectly, they are punished. And these are human brain cells that are put onto these boards, and they, by the end of this year, will be available for commercial purchase.
Oh, it's absolutely terrifying. I think I do remember seeing something about that. And honestly, the scarier thing is that it's much more energy efficient than traditional computing.
It is.
So there's kind of this reason to start shifting towards it.
It also
maybe not a
brings
good
up
reason,
the
but
ethical question though of what is considered alive, because the very famous line is "I think, therefore I am." So what about these computers that are human brain cells that are being punished for something that humans are not perfect? Our brains cannot get it right all the time, so they're punished for getting it wrong. How ethical is this? And that's just a real world example of something that sounds like cosmic horror, like just totally unexplainable. And it's, yeah.
And when are we gonna get murdered for this?
I mean, we are essentially just bringing it back to earlier, constructing our own "I have no mouth, but I must scream."
We really are. We really freaking are. Like, they brought back woolly mammoths, or they're closer to doing it. And stuff like that. It just feels like, how many middle fingers can we continue to give God before God is like, "Okay, that's enough."
Yeah, like, I'm a pagan, but I still think God at some point is gonna go, "Fuck you, Tower of Babel."
Yeah.
Well, even just that, if we spend all of our time going to war with nature, whenever, even the Abrahamic religions, we're supposed to be stewards of this planet. At what point is it just extraction for the sake of false progress? And we've kind of reached a point of diminishing returns as far as, what we're constructing with these newer technologies.
Yeah.
So on to the next question before I start crying. Do we think, so with the old imagery of like tentacles, sea monsters, very oceanic themes, do we think if something was written today, like cosmic horror was written today with the old imagery, would it still be as effective?
Yes, and one example of this is Markiplier's new movie, Iron Lung. He captured that with like this big eel monster so well that I was shocked. And this guy does it with his own money and a bunch of computers that are in his fucking bathroom to do the special effects. That was a giant fire hazard just to produce this film. And he did it perfectly. He captured the old imagery of what cosmic horror is, which was man versus monster, tentacle monster, shit ton of blood, take it into space. It was fantastic. So yes, I do firmly believe this.
Yeah, we need to
watch this movie.
Yeah, the more I hear about it, the more I need to watch it.
It's so good. People hate it because it doesn't spoon feed you, and I'm like, that's what cosmic horror is. You're not supposed to know what the fuck is going on.
You're supposed to be like, I'm stupid, but I'm very uncomfortable right now.
Like, if you leave that movie theater being like, what the fuck just happened? They've done it well.
Amazing. So, listen, the third question was going to be sci-fi involved with cosmic horror. How are some ways that authors can go for that? But I don't know. I think the tangent with the first question, that was already very well covered.
Yes.
So what's space?
Well, I mean, even though we could go back though, and kind of with the sea imagery a little bit more. I mean, as we're learning more about space, I mean, we're also learning more about the oceans, and there's still a pretty vast quantity of Earth's oceans that are unexplored. So, I mean, I think that it's still kind of a fear that's worth kind of illustrating and digging into, because I mean, I don't know about y'all. If you landed on a brand new planet and you saw a shrimp, it would probably freak you out because shrimp look freaky. Like sea critters are kind of creepy in general. So I mean, I think even as we learn more about the oceans, I think we'll continue to unearth things we don't quite understand, and that'll kind of keep bleeding into the horror.
Like, I have an uncanny fear. I love octopus when they're in water, but the minute you put them on land, they freak me out.
Yeah, like, you're not supposed to do that. Get the fuck back in the water.
It feels like something you're
Yeah, it's like a jelly critter.
You're not meant to see that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's just a thing of tentacles on dry land. It's just, it doesn't make sense in my mind. And with the oceans as well, with climate change and the melting of, like, polar caps and stuff, creatures and diseases and things that have been left frozen since before the rings of Saturn were formed is being released into our waters and into our atmosphere now. And it's because of this climate change. And so that can also play into that we have things that we have been frozen for humans' entire existence, and now they're suddenly coming out. Like, we're going to start seeing things like that. Also,
and I mean that's kind of cool looking back at like how often Antarctica and all of that was used in early cosmic horror, and now those horrors of the past are being kind of unleashed in modern times.
Like, my favorite line, especially when it comes to, I have beef with Egyptologists for this as well, and certain archaeologists, that it's like, put that thing back the fuck where you found it, or so help me.
Yeah, put it back. We don't
need to know.
Yeah, like, oh, I want to explore the oceans. Cool, whatever you find, don't fucking tell me. Whatever the ocean is doing is none of my business.
We learned from Ocean Gate. Don't do this shit.
Ocean Gate freaked me the fuck out. And then my brother decided to tell me about Amelia Earhart and the crabs.
Have you seen those kind of crabs? Like, did you look them up?
Yeah, they are terrifying and huge. And then at work, several people came through with lobsters, and I was just shitting my pants, thinking, oh my god, one of them's gonna, like, break out of the box, one of them's gonna break out of the box, and it's gonna kill me. If this comes out of the box, I will die.
Oh, yeah.
I'm terrified of the ocean, and I blame my sister for making me watch Pearl Harbor and Titanic in, like, basically the same night.
Yeah, that's kind of on your sister for that.
Yeah.
I think the ocean is quite fascinating. I just think that there are certain parts of this planet that are meant to be left untouched, which, that is the genre of cosmic horror, that human beings biting off more than we can chew and then meeting the incomprehensible. Like, I fully believe that there are sea creatures that we have not discovered that are massive, especially at Point Nemo, that there's just these horrors. Because, like, why do all three of the Abrahamic religions talk about the Kraken and the Leviathan and the Behemoth.
I think we've already discovered the Kraken. It's giant squid because those fuckers are big.
It could be that. But then the Leviathan and the Behemoth. Those two, they freaked me out. I love the rides at Canada's Wonderland. Those are fun.
Yeah,
but
those are great.
Like, those are creatures that we acknowledge that they've existed, but what are they?
Yeah, it always freaks the fuck out of me whenever I take a look at, like, different cultures and their myths from all around the world and go, like, why the fuck do all of you have the same creature? What do you know that I don't?
Like vampires and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or, like,
well, you know what it
dragons.
means? It means that we won. Humanity won. Let's go.
True, there is some hope there.
Or maybe we lost. Who knows?
Yeah, so the old imagery definitely... Yeah, especially with me being thalassophobic. Keep me the fuck out of the oceans. I used to want to know if mermaids existed. I had a nightmare where I was swimming in a lake and one grabbed my leg, and then I was like, never mind. Never mind, I don't want to know.
I have, like, a list in my head of movies to watch with you on nights that you specifically want to shit your pants. Perfect.
Wonderful. We could do that too.
Wait, was that a
No,
mermaid
not
mention?
tonight.
Is that another siren mention? Anxiety-pilled siren mention?
Oh my god.
For some reason, mermaids keep coming up, especially in his episodes.
You know what? I mentioned the lighthouse earlier too, and there's just a random fucking mermaid that he's fucking in it. I can't explain it, but that's the fun of cosmic horror.
All right, so oh wait,
Yeah, I can take the next question here. Or unless we already got, did we already get through?
go for it because I think I got myself confused. So you go with the next one.
So go for 4 or 5. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
I think 4.
All right, so we've been talking a little bit about the ocean and everything, but getting back to space here, kind of what details in scientific discoveries from space do you think that we've had within the last 2 decades or so that could also kind of blend its way into a newer breed of cosmic horror?
So many. So there's a lot. I think more or less it's just how big everything is, and how old everything is. Like, some space facts is that the Appalachian Mountains are older than the rings of Saturn. So there's that. There are other facts as well, that time dilation is one that you can really fuck around with. Black holes is something that you can really fuck around with. And there is a theoretical science that has an entire Wikipedia page called Dimensions. And this is when you go from our universe to the next universe, and then you keep going and going and going until you get to a concept called the box, which the concept of the box, I'm so sorry this keeps me up at night. Your turn.
Oh no.
Everything that you can think of, possibly, it exists within the box. Anytime you try to imagine anything outside of the box, it automatically exists within the box. There is nothing that you can understand or comprehend that exists outside of the box. And the box holds every single universe, metaverse, multiverse, omniverse, everything is within the box. Your concept of God is within the box because we thought of it.
Okay, so we can organize things.
Not at all. It's complete chaos. So when you look at things like Schrödinger's cat, that is what the box is. So it's this. Do you know what quantum perception is?
Not really.
So something is not the way that it is until you look at it. When you look away, it's different. When you look at it, it's the same. It's Weeping Angels from Doctor Who.
Okay, I was
Is
just
the
about to
best
make that
example
comparison.
I can give you. So because of that, the only reason that life is the way that it is because we perceive it. The minute you look away from it and you don't perceive it, we are but a blink in the entire timeline of what existence is. And the only reason life is the way that it is because we are being perceived by something that's so above time for a split moment. And that thing exists outside the box.
Oh, so there's one thing outside the box.
Yes, but we can't try to imagine what it is. Or it just automatically exists within it.
Huh.
So these are scientific concepts that you can put into this genre and have so much fun with.
You've got me looking at and away from the fake plant that's sitting in front of me. I've done it at least 10 times, and I can't tell if homie's changing outside of my perception.
Oh yeah, make sure that the lamp is still there.
Oh God,
Oh,
are
not
you
the lamp.
referencing
Well,
that
there's a
one
lamp
Reddit?
too, and
I
it's ominous
absolutely am
looking.
referencing that one Reddit thing. Make sure the lamp is still there. Essentially, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, so welcome to that little tidbit that keeps me up at night sometimes.
Well,
So
I mean, I guess it just gets into like what boils down to the meaning of existence itself. And I mean, we can't really quantify that in any way. I guess, we've had our answers to it through religion and, study and things like that. But there are, concepts that man probably shouldn't try to or won't ever be able to, wrap their minds around.
Oh yeah, and like bringing it down from the less theoretical science facts, there are things as well that you can use that are quite incredible and explainable. One thing is vampire stars. So, most things in the universe exist in pairs. The fact that our sun is a sun that stands alone is actually very, very rare. Most suns come with a brother or a sister. When one of them starts to die, it can start to pull energy from its pair star to bring it back to life, therefore killing the other star. And it kind of tends to go back and forth. So these are called vampire stars. They're very cool. Then you have things like dark matter, negative energy. These are things that we know it exists, but we can't explain it because we can't observe it. All we can do is observe the effects. So if you have a story where somebody does perceive it, and it's this great thing, you could write a story kind of revolving around that. You could also write things of what exactly is in a singularity in a black hole. If somebody were to survive going in there, what would happen? And then in black holes, we have this wonderful thing of, how information cannot be deleted? In a black hole, it can be. So, because a singularity deletes information. But as you're going in, it changes that information. So if something were to go in and come back out, it would come out very different. Put in a bicycle, a duck comes out. These are things that we know about black holes.
So I should start throwing bicycles into black holes. Got it.
Exactly. And you have a whole army of ducks.
Then I can cuddle them.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I just had a moment. Because the Sarcasmonomicon episode, he had the machine that takes any item and turns it into like a piece of broken junk. And his stuff is a lot of, kind of science fiction rooted cosmic horror. Maybe my brain was just too smooth to understand the fact that he was writing a little black hole machine.
Yeah, it's an information paradox.
Yeah, he also, I think one of his most famous stories, the short form of the name is called Glenmont Metro. Basically, a guy takes these meds that makes him perceive everything so fast that like every blink is like millennia, eons.
Oh wow.
Like it's a really good story.
I think too though, on this, that one thing that I should say is that when people think of cosmic horror, they automatically think of space. It doesn't need to take place in space. It can happen in a cave. It can happen in the middle of the ocean. If you read a bunch of Lovecraft, a lot of it happens when you're at sea. It's just this unexplainable cosmos because gods, we don't know where they come from, so we think that they're cosmic, kind of a thing. So it doesn't have to take place in space. That is another thing. It can happen within, like examples here is the book that I have right here, The King in Yellow. Like most of it takes place in his bedroom because he's so paranoid that he can't leave. So there's that.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like a lot of the like you were saying with liminal spaces, it's a reuse and a kind of imbuing familiarity with weirdness.
Exactly.
That's been the major kind of cultural shift with cosmic horror, is taking things that are like innately nostalgic and familiar and turning them not necessarily malicious, but just kind of indifferent in a way that people struggle to wrap their heads around.
Oh yeah, and with like how quickly technology is developing and stuff like that, we feel the divide specifically between Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's so strong there that we are in this headspace of nostalgia that it unsettles us, because it's a nostalgia that we'll never be able to go back to, because things have just changed so much, especially after COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely has affected the way that we view it.
Yeah, I mean, nostalgia always has a really strange relationship with melancholy. I feel like neither really exists without the other, at least for me.
And that's
There's always
Kafka.
that hang in your stomach.
Yep. And that's where Kafka was. It's come back to the age of Kafka, where if you read his diaries, it's Wednesday, I want to die. Me too.
Yeah, mood.
Yeah, I do remember reading the Metamorphosis in high school and being really bummed out by it, but I need to explore more of his work.
Metamorphosis is really funny because ultimately the entire story of that is, even if you were turned into a giant bug, your boss would still tell you to come in.
Which we've seen so many memes about. Like,
Yeah.
the world's ending, yeah, we still gotta go to work.
Still need to deliver DoorDash during the
Yeah, that's a majority of my writing at this point is kind of I hadn't really considered it cosmic, but a lot of it is, like I said, the corporate grotesque kind of thing. So I think a lot of that works on kind of similar axes, and in a lot of my visual art, I try and explore like liminal subjects, like suburban neighborhoods are the big one for me. Suburban hell sprawl freaks me the hell out.
That's fair. And when it comes to science fiction, cosmic horror, and like it's either like political sci-fi or a genre that I really like, which is hard sci-fi, which is scientifically accurate sci-fi. That's your Project Hail Mary, your The Martian, and stuff like that. Interstellar. That's hard sci-fi. Is that they're starting to blend together quite a bit more. One book series that really covers just all three of those very, very well is the Three Body Problem. That was translated from Chinese. I can't remember the Sun Liu, I think it's the author. And it's a trilogy, the Three Body Problem, that it has cosmic horror, it has your scientifically accurate sci-fi, and it has your political sci-fi. Oh, Leo's okay.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of Project Hail Mary, this was supposed to be one of your questions, but I wrote this specifically because it was something bugging me while I was watching it. Is the Petrova line real or possible? Because it's scientifically accurate.
No.
Okay, thank God.
So, it's a fun concept. Actually, it's as close to scientifically accurate as you can get. But I'm going to pull up this article. NASA recently released a article that young stars are dimming surprisingly quickly in current X-rays. This was released 4 days ago. And they specifically said, unlike in the new movie, Project Hail Mary, this quieting of young stars is a benefit for the prospects for life orbiting planets around these stars. Basically, it just means that these stars are finally starting to cool their jets and might be able to support life. That's all it means.
Okay.
But you're not going to end up with this random algae growing on the sun that's going to dim it. That's just physically impossible. The way that the sun works is that the sunlight you're reaching took trillions of years to reach you. There is a constant nuclear fission that is happening in there, and those particles take trillions of years to get to the surface of the sun and then to you. Even if there was something that was devouring the sunlight on the surface on the sun, there's so much of it, we'd be fine.
Okay. Thank you. That is very reassuring.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to get that out there, but I had already done so much that day with the Gatorade rice that I was like, okay, let's cool the stupid for a day and ask this another day.
It's all good. You know what? Yeah, getting that question after the Gatorade rice, I might have actually killed you. No.
Which, by the way, podcast listeners, I will put up a picture of it. It was gross. It was bad. I don't recommend it. I consider the experiment a success because I found out, yeah, it's gross and I'm not going to do it again, but I can finally stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Which I do think.
And you know what, anxiety pillars? If you guys want Bats' Gatorade rice recipe, join our Patreon.
We don't have one. And if we did, someone else would be managing that.
For that recipe. On God, if you honestly would pay for a Gatorade recipe, there is no hope for you.
Yeah. Yeah, even my Gatorade. Yeah, the bread was good.
Was great.
I will also share a picture of that. The crust is, I still need to work on that, but that's like a regular bread issue as well.
God.
Yeah, so man,
there's some experiments going on up there.
Yeah, I'm doing all sorts of experiments. I don't know what's going on psychologically to cause that, but probably something.
You know what? You're doing good. Keep at it.
Would you like to take on the last question of the space science?
Yeah, certainly. So, we talked a lot about how, the sea critters, the tentacles, a lot of those aesthetics were kind of rooted from the ocean. Do you see any other kind of like aesthetic changes or forms that may kind of arrive from kind of more of the space side of cosmic horror and science fiction?
I think, going back to Project Hail Mary, that one thing that we saw was that people were very drawn to the colors and how you could finally see the movie you were watching. With this whole like era of just everything was so dark and dim and stuff like that. I think that what we're going to see in the future is a lot more of these very colorful things, especially with things like liminal spaces, because you're seeing ball pits and playgrounds and bright yellow walls and carpet and stuff. Is that we're actually going to see this idea that something that's bright and colorful that should be joyful instills this unknown, unsettled fear in us. And I'm really enjoying it, because when you go into space and you go into this concept of how big everything is, you look at pictures of space and we're not even a pixel on your screen, and it's just bright colors and explosions and fire and stuff like that. So I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more color. We're going to start seeing a lot more of these just uncertain things, yet familiar things. That we're going to see a lot more uncanny valley. Because this idea, we're not so scared of monsters anymore. And while they still exist, it's more or less we're scared of monsters that are shadows that are kind of shapeless in the corner, or entities that speak to you through other means than sending a giant tentacle monster. I blame hentai for that.
Yeah, I was going to say the degenerates have made it so that tentacle monsters
we are
no longer effectively scary.
Like, we are older Gen Z. I think if we met Cthulhu, you specifically would take one look at him and be like, would.
I have done that in the past. Well, not actually look at Cthulhu, but
just would.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, we're not really scared of these things anymore. So while that aesthetic will never go away, and while that will never change, our idea of what we're afraid of will definitely, and what we're unsure of will change as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. I also think that it's more or less that we're going to see more cosmic horror about man-made horrors that we can't explain, things that we tampered with that we were not supposed to. So, yeah.
I think that's a really cool take. I mean, I definitely do see a lot of the kind of hyper colorful, and I mean, I lean into it a lot too, just like the very kind of digital artifact with the sharpening and harsh pixels and angles and things like that, where artists kind of found a way to go backwards a little bit to those early internet aesthetics, where it kind of feels like this creepy paint laden ghost town. I think we will see a lot more of that in the future. It's super cool kind of take on that there.
To plug a series I like, it's on YouTube. It's called The Day the Moon Awoke or something like that. And it's this series about just suddenly the moon having a face, and like these entities were coming out and planets started eating each other. It was really interesting. And so I think that we're going to see a lot more of that too, because Artemis 2 just took place, and we went further than humans have ever been, and the moon is just this piece of curiosity that we went from it's made of cheese to, like we're going to be building settlements there in the next 10 years. So, yeah, who knows what horrors the caves on the moon have.
Yeah. What moon bears?
Moon bears.
Oh my god.
That's been the Moon Bear. Did not mean for that. Yeah, who knows what horror space will bring. But I hope space also brings some friends in the future. I'd love to get to know aliens. Like, what are their fashions? Do they need clothes?
Yeah,
Like,
maybe cosmic horror was really just the uncomprehensible horrors we met along the way.
It's the friends we made along the way.
yeah,
Maybe
it's
where the
thinking
credits-
it's where the clothes.
Sorry, I had to.
Dear listeners, we are recording this under a duvet, and it is very hot. So I think our brains might be overheating a little
A
bit.
little bit.
It's gonna need some Gatorade rice in there.
No.
No,
God,
no. Gatorade bread, maybe. Rice, no. Like,
Not repeating that.
yeah, no. No, I am very much not picky, but that's a no. So, is there anywhere that people can find your work?
Currently, no. I don't really publish my work online as of right now. More or less, it's just sitting in a hard drive somewhere, and I stare at it and then close my laptop. But I will be, hopefully soon in the future, posting just little things here and there in the Reddit. So maybe look out for those. It will be under the name TARS.
Yeah, we will put your Reddit name on screen and in the description.
Okay.
Speaking of upcoming projects, so when I had first said, guys, I'm gonna bring on somebody who is like able to talk a lot about cosmic horror, I incorrectly said that they were a published author.
Okay.
That was
so-
because I was like, man, this book sounds so good, like I think it's already out.
Oh boy.
I got confused.
So I have done projects before with commission work for short magazines and stuff like that. I'm not completely unpublished, but it's nothing that I have ownership over.
Yeah.
And these are not things that I could direct you towards because I don't know where they went to. They went in the void, I got paid, whatever. So, but I do have an actual novel that's going to be coming up, as I see the question here.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be called Ymir, and it talks on that thing that I told you about, the computers that have human brain cells on them. So I use that as a concept that takes place in space. And the idea essentially is that when the Earth is no longer livable, human beings start to migrate to the moon, and from there they send 3 ships into space to find a future home, one of them being the Ymir, that ends up orbiting between Earth and Mars and is just stuck there for years and years and years and years. So I kind of touch on the changes in society, how AI influences their language, but also this cosmic horror concept of how horrific it would be to live in a society that's fully influenced by AI that's completely designed to preserve itself. So that's coming up.
Yeah, it is very fascinating and very well researched too, because again, there was the one time I came over to their house and they just slapped down a CIA time travel document. I'm like, what the fuck?
So I read unclassified CIA things like the morning newspaper, and one of them being that they actually do have a game plan for time travel, wormhole travel, and if we were to meet aliens while doing it. And this is something that actually was scientifically researched. Like, there is the science behind it that the government was like, yeah, we might be able to build a wormhole one day. I don't know.
I don't think we should.
No.
I don't trust humans with that
Why
shit.
not? But if anybody's going to do what we shouldn't, it's going to be the CIA.
It is
Yeah,
the fucking
absolutely.
United States of America.
Yeah. No offense to the Americans, but your government. Wait,
Oh, it's
shit, I
okay,
shouldn't
yeah.
say that. I'm going there. Oh no! We're editing that out.
But oh my god, the things that in science, when it comes to the United States and Australia specifically, it's kind of horrific. But I can't say anything about that because every country in the world has done some insane shit.
Yeah.
We've heard about the things that Russia did
Ooh.
during the space age.
Or things that Japan did that had us figure out the limits of the human body with Unit 731.
Yeah, so There's more cosmic horror shit
Yeah.
that goes into the body horror.
And
That's a tangent.
I think before we go, we have had our brains thoroughly scrambled and cooked like eggs. By the time this comes out, manuscript by Cult Publishing. They have come out with the first issue of their Zine. The authors and artists involved are absolutely amazing. And Man with Fat, take it away, talk about it. Again, my brain's overheating.
Oh, you're all good. No, I mean, please, everybody who listened, go support the people over at Cole Publishing. Got a lot of great friends over there. They've helped the show out a lot, and we just appreciate everybody over there. There is a absolute village of incredibly talented people who put in, countless man hours to, put out a really, really great and free product. So, I mean, I think that, especially if you love horror enough to where you're at this point in the Anxiety Pilled podcast, you should definitely take the time to go check out the stuff that they're doing over there. Just like I said, a village of incredibly talented writers and artists, and I know that they would really appreciate each and every human soul that picks up and lays eyes on that magazine. So please go support them. I also wanted to say, Tars, I really appreciate you coming on the show as well. Definitely a little different from our typical Anxiety Pilled episodes, but I think that we were able to get a lot of really cool ideas out there. I'm definitely a bit more existentially afraid of the things around me after this conversation.
Me too.
but it has been an absolute blast. Thank you everybody who's made it this far. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to the channel. And did you have anything else that you wanted to say, Beth?
Let us know. Comment, like, subscribe. Comment and let us know, what do you think of us occasionally pulling away from the stories and going, okay, what do we have to say about this genre or subgenre? We definitely, it's like, if I could wrangle my one professor into helping, it would be cool to talk about Gothic horror with like a qualified expert. But like, let us know what you think. Did you like this? Did you find it interesting? But also give us our stories. Let us know what you think. And thank you so much for joining us today on Anxiety Pills.
I'll also add real quick, it's really cool to get on here and, read everybody's stories, but I think it's also nice. I mean, just sitting here today talking through all this stuff, I've got a million ideas swirling through my head. So, hopefully if you are, a fellow creative hopping on here, you were able to get some more insight and kind of get the brain twirling a little bit as far as, some other places that, maybe you could explore cosmic horror. So, we could bring on some professionals who, have greater insight to these sorts of things so that we can, kind of build up a community of not only, sharing each other's work, but, building ourselves as writers and creatives and artists and all that.
All right, so I think it is time for us to say goodbye. Thank you again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.